I tell people that all the time. We get to do it, right? You remember
Yes.
that now.
Yeah. You get to do it.
We get to do it. That's right. So it is preparing now, and I believe we are officially live and recording now. And yes, we are. I'm so excited. And by the way, welcome everyone. It's Freedom Friday again, and another amazing leader that is joining me today, Mr. Richard Hall, the founder of Bottom Line Lawyers, and so many other amazing things that I am gifted to get to be a resource and a vessel for him and his team. And Richard, you have so much to share about how you invest in the community first. I want you to share all the amazing things you're doing.
Sure. Thanks so much, April. And just a little plug. I really appreciate your coaching. It's wonderful. It's made a huge difference in my life and my business. I appreciate it very much. So I'm also chairperson of our Government Affairs Economic Development Committee in the local Chamber of Commerce, and have been on the board for 10 years and prior president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm a Rotarian, which is all about service above self, which is very consistent with my personal philosophy. And I'm vice president now of the Forgotten Soldier program here in Auburn. There's other things that I've done through the years, but that's what's active right now.
You are extremely passionate about serving and being invested and making sure that we are building community, right?
Absolutely. And that really will tie into the conversation about leadership very much so.
Absolutely. And so you know that I've given you a few questions in advance, and you know that I might ask a few extras, having the experience of getting to be coached by me, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. So educate me, what makes leadership so important for you first?
Well, for me, I derive satisfaction in my life from serving people. And what I've discovered is that the best way to serve people is a form of leadership. And by helping them discover what they're capable of, what they can contribute to others, and what the satisfaction is that's available from that contribution to others. To me, that's the most important aspect of leadership, is helping people learn about that for themselves.
Isn't that a beautiful gift, to empower leadership and and a lot of people don't even recognize they are leaders, right?
Absolutely.
And so to help them self-discover that is a really powerful opportunity. And you have a thought on that, I can tell.
Well, yeah, I do. In fact, because it's actually, that's true for me. I've never really thought of myself as a leader. You know, I'm just a guy who does things and gets things done and helps people, right? And so when I did give that some thought, I said, well, yes, I do lead people in the way that, in my fashion anyway, and I've done so basically all of my life, and so it's an interesting discovery for me too to think of myself in that way. I have many interests. If anything, I'm probably have too many interests. It's to a fault. And sometimes you need to focus. And that's exactly what I'm doing right at the moment, is focusing on some key objectives for myself. But having that many interests makes it easier to relate to other people.
You have a wealth of experience, knowledge, tools. I mean, it's just a wonderful gift. And I always get awed about all the extra ones you get. So are the ones that I discover as we keep moving along our journey. Yet educate me, when was the first time you realized you were a leader?
You know, I'd have to say, with a retrospective scope, that I would look back to certainly into my time in the Boy Scouts, when I became a patrol leader and a senior patrol leader and all those official leadership roles. I didn't think of myself particularly, again, as a leader at that point in time, but I realized that is the role that I was filling. And also, throughout education in high school and all that, in various class leadership roles, and then moving on into early adulthood and all that. Leadership took a different form, working on some campaigns for people and helping them organize that. And then certainly in more recent times with a lot of volunteer work, volunteering, whether it's with the chamber or the Rotary group or on my daughter was on the swim team, and I was a leader on that organization as well. So there's lots of opportunities to be a leader and to contribute. And again, to me, that ability to contribute is the driving force for satisfaction.
The fulfillment opportunity, right? The ability to make sure that not only are you serving the clients, but you're serving the community, you're serving individuals inside that community that are gifted by your gifts and your techniques and your tools.
And that's actually, I mean, you raised a great point there in that that is a large part of the reason that I'm in the practice of law and in the areas in which I practice. I practice with tax resolution. So people get in trouble with taxes and I help them with that. People want to have an estate plan and I help them with that. We have veterans that have sustained disabilities through their service, and I help them get compensation for that disability. And of course, lots of people have financial challenges, and I help them with bankruptcy. And I think of myself as their servant in that regard, in helping them. And it's satisfying, and I know it's not, I can't even find the right words for how it feels that somebody walks in the office, well, at least they did before COVID, walks in the office and, they're even like slumped down and you can tell they're unhappy and depressed. And we have a conversation and I've taken that burden off of them. It's now my burden. And they walk out, they're standing taller, for goodness sakes. I mean, it's amazing to see the physical reaction in people. And it's very, very satisfying to see that you can have that effect.
Again, that goes back to that empowering leadership, right? To empower them to, I have help, I have support, I have an opportunity to release this to somebody that's more skilled than I to know what to do with it. And to ask for that help. And that's one of the other challenges sometimes is that people don't, leadership sometimes is being willing to ask questions and ask for help. And that is an opportunity that not everybody is always comfortable doing, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a lot about, I think leadership almost is a misnomer. It's more like listenership. Because I think the way you lead is to listen, and to listen outside of your own interests and your own experiences, to just hear what that person has to say. I know that in coaching, we've talked about the observer, and it's, certainly being the observer of ourselves is a powerful thing, but also being an observer of someone else, not what they're saying, but what they're communicating, which frequently is very different from the words that are coming out of their mouth, right? And that takes a different kind of listening and a different kind of observer. And I think that's really for me anyway, that's the root of leadership, is to be able to listen to people and hear what it is that they're truly trying to say, even though they're not saying it.
There's so many things you said there. The first one is I just had a conversation this morning about how the words are only 7%. And depending on which motto you follow, the words themselves, the tonality, the body language make up the other percentages. And yet I've said this to many of my coaching clients, and you have been fully aware of this. I may ask the same question quite a few different ways to verify where it's coming from and what's not being said, because that's so key to recognize, is that there is so many other pieces to the puzzle. And to take the time to not just, and you also said something earlier I want to reiterate, is you said to understand that they're carrying things. And so if you're listening and you show up and you're listening from an agenda, you may miss the opportunity to listen to what's really being said and confirm what's really being said and ask the next question that can clarify what's not being said. And sometimes they come out in the most unique ways, right?
Absolutely. In ways that they come at you from 90 degrees away. It's pretty interesting.
Right?
You know that I like to listen to books a lot. And currently I'm listening to one called The Data Detective. And it's all about how statistics have been used to mislead people in various circumstances, and how to educate yourself about an appropriate use of statistics. And to me, again, it was circled all the way back to how do you listen to that? You know, and what's the opportunity with those statistics, or what that person is saying? What's the opportunity to learn from that? What's the opportunity to assist in that? And perhaps what conclusions can you draw out of that? Certainly from a professional point of view, it's important for me to do that with the clients to understand, you know, as I said, they say one thing, but I hear something else. And they may say, well, this is really what I want. After you've explored that a while, you find out that's not really what they want. That's just that's the highest level at which they can express what they want. Mm-hmm. And I heard it said once, in fact, there's a song that I absolutely love. I'm going to probably forget the name of it. It's like Beautiful Day or something. And Louis Armstrong sings a song. And in one line, he says, and they say hello. And what they're really saying is, I love you. Mm. And I love that sentiment. And it's because people will express their thoughts and their feelings at the highest level that's available to them, but that may not really expose what is going on for them.
And the opportunity you give is the ability to help them discover it so they can expose it and get clear about it and have a pathway to know where to go with it. And you have a whole team that you're building to help support that from all kinds of different sources. So you're not the only one doing the work, which gives you the ability to be more present and to be more capable of asking more deeper questions to clarify where you're headed.
Yes.
So we have so many things we could get carried away in, but we told each other that we'd make sure we make this real concise, but also very powerful, packed nuggets. And so I'm going to ask you the most, joyful question of the day. What do you think if you were to pick out one specific skill that really is a key to all the listeners to what has been your journey? What's been the one that comes to top of mind that says this is absolutely number one, what I knew I wanted, I needed, I chose to be part of my leadership journey? What skill?
Well, I may sound repetitive, but I'm going to say listening is the most important skill, because it reveals so much. Mm-hmm. And it also, to me, there used to be a phrase, I remember putting my daughter through a class, it was called active listening. Mm-hmm. And it was really about, participating in the conversation in a way that you're helping that person express themselves. And I think that's terrifically important from a leadership perspective. And it's important to also listen to people who are talking about you, because there are things that are going to be said and have been said, for instance, about me that I don't really like, but I learn from those things. Mm-hmm. And then to independently assess, okay, is it grounded? Is it ungrounded? Right. And what does it actually mean? So that skill of listening, both to other people and to ourselves, I think is really important. One of the expressions that I think it was Abraham Lincoln who actually said this, but it was to keep your own counsel. Mm. And one of the challenges I think people have now is they listen to everybody, mm-hmm. and they listen to everybody equally. So it's the guy on the street who doesn't know up from down giving you an opinion. And why are you even paying attention to that? Versus someone who is either very educated in the area, professional in the area, that maybe ought to get a little bit more of your attention and time when you're listening. And so it's that discernment in listening, I think that's important.
That I couldn't have said that better. And I'll add a couple other thoughts to that, and then wrap up us in a couple of last requests. The first one is, I love what you just said about recognizing that it's important to have the discernment to take the time to fact check. It's important to take the time to research where the facts came from and where the person's commentary and opinion, because we have a gift to hear everyone. And to get to that listening concept in the coaching world, I was taught there's 3 different layers of listening. And in a recent top 7 I did a couple months ago, I mentioned the fact that there's one particular researcher, scientist, if you will, has now said there's a fourth level, and talks about how some of us show up with our own types of filters and experiences, etc., that can impact all the different layers of listening. So ideally, you should, most people, and I'd say 80% of the population, if not more, I'll have to verify the statistics on it, show up with their own agenda, where others will show up, as you said, saying, okay, what am I not hearing? And showing up in that safe place and showing up and stepping into the next couple layers. And then finally verifying that you're coming from a place of truly serving, not having it attached to any agenda. So there's all kinds of pieces to that puzzle, as we just talked about. But I really, really resonate with the awareness of how powerful it is to have discernment and clarity and owning what you do with the information you hear. And I think that's really, really powerful. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to make sure to share today?
Well, I just want to add to what we were just talking about, because I just observed it in myself. And that is, we as humans tend to be thinking about, when the other person's speaking, we're thinking about, well, what are we going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that detracts from our ability to listen to the other person. And I know about you, but I have to remind myself of that all the time. No, we're just stop thinking about that and just hear this person. So
what a wonderful thing to say. And yes, I've had a few years at it. So I spent a whole lot of time listening, as you well know. So and you have how do people get in contact with you? How do people, ask the tough questions? Like you said, that maybe facing some challenges, maybe facing some things that they need support and they need to release it, or at least know what's the next step.
Sure. Well, certainly on my website, which is bottomlinelawyers.com. It's bottomlinelawyers with an S.com. I also have a Bottom Line Lawyers YouTube channel that has a number of videos on it that are intended to be educational. And of course, they can always call the office, as it were, which is 530-888-7100. So 530-888-7100. Always happy to hear from folks and help wherever and however I can. I'm going to put one little plug in if I can.
Please.
I have a passion project, and that passion project is reforming democracy in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I know it's really dangerous to talk anything political these days because people are so polarized. And that's part of what I hope to address. I have a website that I put together that explains what I think in that area and how to address it that is nonpartisan. And that's called citizenschoice.us. It is my passion project. Right now, it's kind of on a hiatus because I'm focused on getting my firm through COVID right now. But I'll return my attention to that a little bit later. But I think I've got some interesting and unique ideas that can help all of us in terms of the political experience that we're having in the country at the moment.
Citizens' choice. That is such a great phrase. And I appreciate how you said, I tell people all the time, the concept of diversity and inclusion has its own set of landmines, right? And so what you just said is the same thing. And yet the conversation needs to be started. And so that's why we have our podcast. That's why we have a lot of the different pieces of helping each voice move forward. And that's what you're doing as well, is allowing voices to move forward and say, how do we find that unity? How do we find that opportunity to be in choice? And that applies in every area of our lives. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
And
thank
you for being with us today. Is there any nuggets we missed?
Well, I'm sure there's many nuggets we missed.
Right?
But I think we did a pretty good job covering what our intention was this morning. And
I agree.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the opportunity to be your coach and your team. And I am excited to watch all the feedback and commentary. We look forward to seeing everybody for our next Freedom Friday and all the other things we get to do. Have an amazing day, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.